is, right? If I have a line segment, the midpoint is halfway. Okay, well, if I know these coordinates, this is some coordinate x1, y1, so the first x, the first y, and this is some coordinate x2, y2, so the second x, second y. That's all these little subscripts mean. This means like the first x, and this means the second x. That's all those are telling you, just so that you know the difference between the two x's that you're talking about. A subscript is different from an exponent in that way. You don't do anything with it. It's just an identifier. Wow, I can't talk. So what we do is we can find the midpoint of any line using this formula. Line segment, because lines don't have midpoints because they're infinite, and what's halfway of infinity? Who knows? Right, okay, so I have this line segment here, and let's say this is point A, which is, let's just call it 5, -3. And this is point B, and we'll just call it 7, -1. They're in a coordinate plane, and that would be the coordinates. And the midpoint we're just going to call M. Okay, so we can find M using these 2 points. This is x1, y1, and this is x2, y2. Doesn't matter though. I could call this x1, y1, and this x2, y2. It really doesn't matter. Because addition doesn't matter what order you add in. So you just need one to be 1 and one to be 2. It doesn't matter which is which. So I plug those numbers into the midpoint formula, and now it's in parentheses like this because points are in parentheses, so it's parentheses with a comma. So I have x1 plus x2 divided by 2, and then y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So that's 12 over 2 and -4 over 2, so that is 6, -2. So my midpoint would be 6, -2. We can find the midpoint. We call this x1, y1, x2, y2. Our formula is not legible the way I was writing, sorry.
2 plus 4 over 2 plus 6 plus 14 over 2.
Okay, so I get 6 over 2, and I get 20 over 2. So 3 and 10. Okay, guys. Okay, so let's do this. You don't have to write the formula out if you don't want to. You just can add the 2 x's, add the 2 y's. -3 and -7 is -10. 6 and 10 is 16. So I get -5 and 8. So the midpoint of this segment is 310. The midpoint of this segment would be -5, 8. Okay, so how does this work? Well, remember x1 plus x2 divided by 2 would have given me the 6, right? Because if I add the 2 x's, I'd get the middle x. Well, I have the first x, so I have -4 plus x2 equals 6. So I have 1 x, I need to find the other x.
Okay, so multiply by 2 first.
Multiply by 2 first.
Okay, what? So you cancel out the bottom 2.
Okay, what we did, because I know that if I add the 2, this would be x2, y2, right? Because I don't know it. If I add the 2 x's, this x plus that x, and divide it by 2, it would equal 6. No, I multiply both sides by 2 because that cancels those out. So it leaves -4 plus x equals 12. So then I add 4 to both sides to cancel those out. and I get x is equal to 16. So that told me the x. Now to find the y, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to put a little barrier here so I... And I'm going to use... What do you think? Green? Green's good. Okay. If I add the two y's together and divide it by 2, it would give me negative 12. Well, I have the first y, which is 8. I don't have the second y, but if I multiply both sides by 2, those 2's cancel, so I get 8 plus y equals 24. Subtract 8 from both sides, and y is 16. So the end would be 16, 16. Setup is confusing. What you can do is you can take m, right? Multiply it by 2. So that'll give me 6 and 18. And then I can subtract 5 and negative 7 from that. Where? Oh, you're right. It sure was. Thank you. I dropped my negative. Thanks for catching that. So that would change that to a negative 32. Good catch. Thank you. So if you want to do it this way, you multiply m by 2, and then you subtract the end from it. So multiply the middle by 2, subtract the end. We distribute that negative. So it ends up being 6 minus 5 and 18 plus 7. Does that make sense? Because this was a negative. If I subtract a negative, it becomes a positive. So my end would be 1 and 25. Guys. Okay, so I did 2 times the m, which gave me the 0.620, right? But I need to subtract... I won't keep doing that in the wrong color. I want to subtract 6, negative 5 from that. So I subtract a. So this is 2m minus a. So I'm doing 2 times the point m, and then I'm subtracting a from it. And that'll give me b. So 6 minus 6 is 0. 20 plus 5, because it's negative, negative, so that becomes positive, so that's 25. Do you have to put the b? No. Okay, so do you like this way better than the algebra way? Okay. So I took the vertices of this triangle, I plotted them on the coordinate plane, and I drew the triangle, and it's pretty, right? This is L, this is M, and this is N. So this is the first step. Okay, so you're going to draw the triangle first so that you know which points make the ends of each side. So this is side LM, MN, and LN. We can use the midpoint formula to find the midpoint of each side of the triangle. This will become important later because there are theorems that involve like the midpoint. If you connect the midpoint of this side to the midpoint of that side, it tells you something about this length and things like that. So you need to be able to find the midpoints. So we can do LM. We're going to use these 2 points. So we're using negative 3, 2 and negative 1, 6. So I have negative 3 plus negative 1 divided by 2. And 2 plus 6 divided by 2. So that's negative 4 divided by 2, which is negative 2. And that's 8 divided by 2, which is 4. Not too bad, I hope.
I'm going to work your problem out. I'm running out of space.
more space. Okay, so we can do the mn, so that's going to be using these 2 points. So I've got -1 plus 1 divided by 2 and 6 plus 3 divided by 2. Well, what's -1 plus 1?
0.
Divided by 2?
0.
And then 6 plus 3 is 9, but that doesn't divide by 2, so we can just leave it like that. Not too bad. And then we have the last one is ln, so I have -3 plus 1 and 2 plus 3. -3 plus 1 is -2. Divided by 2 gives me -1, and then 2 plus 3 is 5, which doesn't divide by 2, so I'll just leave it a fraction.